I've said before how overwhelming the amount of new products brands have been releasing has become. In the past 2 to 3 years, I feel like it's totally ramped up to be like chaotic. And because of this, I feel like so much beauty content on social media now only talks about what's new, what's fresh, what's exciting, when there are older products that are still on shelves that hold up in 2024 and work just as well, if not better, than some newer releases. So today I'll be doing my face with a bunch of older drugstore makeup to see if they still hold up or if opting for a newer release would be a better decision. So let's get into it. But if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. This channel is dedicated to budget beauty. If that sounds like your vibe, hit subscribe. Now this first product, I've not used this in maybe a decade. This is the Pixi Makeup Fisting. Let's roll that back. This is the Pixi Makeup Fixing Mist. So this can be used both before and after makeup, but also you can use it throughout the day to like refresh the look of your makeup. It is supposed to keep it from moving, melting, or settling into fine lines and pores, as well as increases hydration and balances the skin, which I really need. We have started to run the air conditioner in my house and it is drying out my skin a lot. And this is available at Target for $15. Okay. Maybe I remember why I haven't used this in a while. It has that very strong rose scent to it. It is rose water and green tea, but pretty sure there is added fragrance in here. There's no way that that is natural fragrance. Yeah, parfum fragrance. It is towards the bottom though, so I'll give them that. It feels good on the skin. It feels lightweight. I don't feel like there's residue. It definitely just sunk into my skin. I still want to see how it performs under makeup, but right off the bat, just because I'm so sensitive to this scent, I would say choosing the slightly newer product would probably be a better choice. This is the Milani Make It Last setting spray, which I love. It is one of my favorites, and it is technically a prime, correct, and setting spray, so you can use it in the same way. You can use it under your makeup, over your makeup, and throughout the day. And this one does have fragrance in it, but it doesn't stand out as much. It's not something I could pick out, and definitely not something that I'm super sensitive to, and my skin does not react to it. And this technically isn't that new of a product. It's about 7, maybe 8 years old max. So starting this video off a little interesting. Next, we have a product that has been a drugstore staple for as long as I can remember, probably even since I started wearing makeup. This is the LA Girl Pro Conceal Concealer. Now, I've used this throughout the years, but mostly in the green shade for color correcting. But today I actually just want to try the skin shades. I have 2 that I think might work for me. I think Bisque might be a better choice. This one's Tawny, which is a bit deeper. Now this is a drugstore concealer that I've actually had professional makeup artists use on me, and I don't think they've changed much about this concealer over the years. I think it's a if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. One thing that I do wish they would update though is the packaging. I'm not a fan of built-in brushes. They get gunky. It's not the most sanitary if you're using this like directly over blemishes, but let's check out how this works just on its own for concealing some of what I've got going on. This is the shade Bisque. I think it's gonna be a good match, or at least it won't stick out underneath my foundation. This shade might be a tiny bit light on me. I would say we're getting solid medium coverage with this first layer, but it's looking very smooth on the skin, and especially in this area here, it is smoothing out my pores a lot. As I mentioned earlier, my skin is also feeling very dry. I know that I have dry patches kind of around my nose and in my under eye area, and this is not catching on any of that dry skin. I also have dry skin around this zit because of me hitting it with benzoyl peroxide, and it doesn't look crusty, which I like. I'm actually gonna try to mix these 2 shades and see if I can get a little bit better of a shade match for a second layer. These shades are right next to each other as well, so there's not really an in-between option for me. So this is what I would have to do to get, I guess, a better shade match for myself. I'm gonna let that marinate a bit before I blend it out just to get the coverage to set a bit more. This is blending so well into my skin that doesn't have any other makeup on it that I feel like, granted, if I got the perfect shade match, I would be cool wearing this without foundation. And I don't think you'd be able to see all the little patches of concealer because it's blending out so well, even just with my finger. It's interesting because it's kind of like thick enough to give you a lot of coverage, but thin enough to blend into your skin naturally. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I feel like this is performing a little better than my ColourPop Pretty Fresh concealer, which has been my go-to for the past year and a half, 2 years. And I feel like it might be a little bit more lightweight and blendable than the e.l.f. Hydrating Concealer, which, you know, that has a bit of a thicker consistency, and to spot correct, I always felt like I could kind of see it if I didn't put foundation over it. I would say not only does this definitely hold up in 2024, but it might be better than newer concealers that have come out since. I was gonna put on a BB cream like foundation layer over this. I feel like we already got so much coverage, but I do think I still wanna put on a thin layer so we can talk about this product. This is the CoverGirl Clean Matte BB Cream. I was obsessed with this when it came out. I wanna say it came out like maybe 2018-ish. And there are a couple things that make this BB cream truly unique at the drugstore, and I still feel like it's unique at the drugstore 6 years later. Number one, it's matte. So you're getting the benefits of a BB cream and like the lightweight feel and everything, but it's not gonna be dewy or radiant. I still feel like that's kind of an anomaly in the BB cream category. And two, this offers really good coverage. I would say medium, but buildable. And as someone who deals with acne and dark spots, I do prefer having at least medium coverage in my face products to really just feel a little bit more like I have that even base to work with. And I feel like most BB creams at the drugstore really focus more on the kind of glowy sheer look, and that's not what this is. And the one thing that I do want to point out is even though it's matte, it is not matte to the point where it is uncomfortable if you don't have oily skin, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel or look dry on the skin, but it will help keep your face less oily throughout the day if you are oily, and it's going to not have that greasy appearance throughout the day. And I personally feel like even if you have oily skin, you don't really need to set this with an extra product. The one thing that they could improve on, and that I think would be different if they re-released this, you know, in 2024, is the shade range. So I am light medium 530. There are only 6 shades, and this one is smack dab in the middle. Deep is not what I would consider deep. For me, it looks more like dark tan. So does this hold up in 2024? I love how my skin looks. I think the performance definitely holds up, as well as the unique aspects to this versus other BB creams on the market. However, the shade range does not hold up in 2024. Let's get real. It never held up, but with the progress that drugstore brands have made in terms of their shade ranges, this is not acceptable. I really wish that they would revisit this product and release more shades, because I think that it would be so much more widely appreciated. Okay, before we move on, I'm just gonna quickly do my brows and prime my eyes. Now, I wanna know what you think about this, but in my opinion, eyeshadow is still one of the more hit or miss products when it comes to drugstore makeup. I feel like there are brands that get it right every time, like Wet n Wild, and other times I'm like, oh, this is still giving old school. It's giving powdery, it's giving sheer. But when CoverGirl came out with these True Naked palettes, I really did feel that at the time they were toward the top of the drugstore eyeshadow hierarchy. So do they hold up in 2024? 2016 was the first time I reviewed these palettes on my blog, so they're about 8 years old now. Now, you may have seen me use the smoky version of this palette. This is a palette that I have decluttered more than once, and then I've repurchased more than once, because I will get rid of it not really using it regularly, and then I really want like a silvery bluish drugstore palette to have on hand, and then I repurchase this because it's $10. But today I want to use the Desert Heat palette, which is sort of this warm, neutral, copper bronze type of color story. I'm gonna tap into this cooler taupey brown. Okay, one thing about these palettes is that they are definitely powdery. For sure, a lot of kick up in the pan. So I am tapping as much excess off of my brush, and a lot of excess is coming off. Okay, right off the bat, pigmentation is there. I'm going really, really lightly, but we have a solid color payoff moment, and it's blending really nicely. Did y'all hear that? That was my stomach. Am I gonna make it through this video without a snack? Stay tuned. Yeah, it's really not taking a lot of effort at all to blend this out. The answer was no, she needed a little snack. Now tapping into this warm, darker brown. I'm gonna focus that on the outer corner. Yeah, I would say that these matte shades are very easy to work with, and maybe a controversial opinion, but I am thinking that these mattes are better than the NYX Ultimate eyeshadow palette formula, even the new one. They did redo that palette and it's eons better than the original, but it's also $20. And this one's $10. And I feel like the mattes are just a bit stronger right out the gate. Okay, let's use one of these sort of shimmery metallic shades because I feel like that's what's gonna seal the deal on whether or not this is still a quality palette in 2024. I'm thinking of going with this pink right here. I'm gonna go in with my finger. Okay. Just feeling it with my finger. It is so buttery smooth. It actually looks a little bit more like a pink copper. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, definitely almost a coral pink. Yes. I feel like it looks pretty opaque, just tapped on with the finger in one layer. Yeah, we're not getting much sheerness at all with this color. And I wouldn't say it's metallic so much as it is, I don't know how to describe it, because it's definitely shimmery, but the shimmer is very fine. I feel like it's just glowy. Yeah, even the shimmer and matte, as I'm kind of blending them into each other to get a little bit of a fade going, they're blending in really nicely. Let's get a highlight shade going, although, again, not many options. I would say that one thing that this could improve upon is a little bit more of a range. I feel like most of these shades are in the mid to dark tone category, and then we have this like super silvery white pink. That's pretty. I'm kind of just placing it down with a brush and then using my finger to help blend it into that pink lid shade a bit. I'm just gonna use whatever's left on my brush under the brow. I don't want it to be really, really strong right there. Yeah, I feel like this definitely holds up in 2024. The only two downsides, like I mentioned, I would have liked a little bit more of a full range from light to dark, and then you're getting a little bit of a powdery mess in the palette, but not really on the face. I don't see any fallout. It stays put. I am going to carve out the edge, which I've been doing lately just to kind of clean up the look a bit. And then because I do my face makeup first, I'll just put a tiny bit of concealer in that spot where I took my makeup off. If I had to compare this to other drugstore eyeshadows, I would say that the quality and the feel, the texture, the performance, it's in between Wet n Wild and ColourPop, with ColourPop being on top, but it's only $10 and I would say it's still definitely worth checking out in 2024. Here's another product that I don't think I've used in at least 7 years, and maybe we can give a little bit of a redemption to Pixi with this one. It's the Pixi Lash Line Ink Liner. Here we have a pretty long cone-shaped felt tip. This is definitely not my favorite liner tip style. Y'all know that I prefer a brush tip, but when I do use a felt tip, I want it to be a lot skinnier than this. But this is about $14 and it claims to be long wear and non-feathering. So because it is such a large felt tip, I'm gonna try the stamp method over here. We got a little bit of skipping. I also feel that a brush tip liner works better with aging eyes, for lack of a better term, because I am experiencing more texture and folding near my eyes in my 30s, and a brush sort of like just glides over it. With a felt tip, I feel like there's friction being created and you end up with this sort of tugged line. Okay, I was able to get a pretty good point on the wing. For a felt tip liner, it is certainly not the worst that I've tried. When I want to use just the tippy top of the point though, it's not getting a lot of product flowing through. I feel like you need to press down relatively hard to get the product to like really flow through the felt tip, but then you are risking not getting that sharp line. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Otherwise, I feel like we are gonna be in a, evening out battle. If you don't like a brush tip and you really do prefer felt, I still don't think this is gonna be the best option. I feel like the ColourPop BFF liquid liner is gonna be way easier. I feel like there is a lot more product flow through the tip. The tip is also more pointed. Here they are side by side. You can see that the Pixie base is so much wider. It's definitely more of a cone shaped, but that tip is not nearly as pointed as the ColourPop one. And with the ColourPop one, you can really draw with the very, very tip for super, super thin lines. Like there's really good product flow with this. In this case, I do not think that the Pixie liner holds up in 2024. Definitely go with the newer option. This mascara has been a bestseller at the drugstore for years, but despite that, it's very polarizing. I feel like either you love it or you hate it. At least that's the discourse that I see about this mascara online. It is the Essence Lash Princess Mascara. So I have the original version in black, and then they did just release black brown as a new option, but I'm just gonna be putting on the OG today. I feel like the complaint that I see a lot about this mascara is that it's really clumpy. I will say this is a wetter formula, and you just gotta be strategic about how you apply it. But once you get the hang of it, it can be a really dramatic look. So we have this tapered wand. It's not quite cone shaped. It is on the thinner side, which I appreciate because I do feel like I can get into the inner corners with this. And I'm not sure if you noticed, I did scrape off a lot of the excess product that comes out with the wand. I pretty much do that with all of my mascaras now. I feel like that gives me the most control to layer up a formula versus just going in heavy-handed. In general, I feel like most mascaras come out with more product than you actually want on your lashes. And because I have such straight lashes, working in thin layers is essential for them not to droop down. Just finished my first very thin coat, and here is the before and after. Already I have noticeable volume and length on this side, and I don't feel like it looks very clumpy or spidery at all. Now, despite this being kind of a wetter formula, it dries pretty dang quickly. So even just in that moment of me talking to you, it started to dry on my lashes. So from here, you want to be strategic about building up. You want to work in really even strokes from root to tip. Don't just work at the tips of your lashes, because that's what's going to give you kind of like a blunt, clumpy lash look. And don't forget the bottom lashes. Okay, I got a little bit of a fleck on my eyelid, but this is typically where I'd stop. I would not layer it any more than this, or you will probably get into clumpy territory. But check out this before and after. Super elongated, fanned out and separated. This is the lash look that I really like. Now, is it a finicky formula? That I'll give to you. I will say that I don't think it's much more finicky than a lot of the other like dramatic mascaras out there right now. For example, the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift Mascara, beautiful results, great formula. The brush on that one is actually what makes it pretty finicky because they tried to get super innovative and the brush has a learning curve. I also think that Maybelline Sky High can be just as finicky because there is a certain point in the layering process where you really need to know where to stop. So I really don't think that this is that much more inconvenient than those when it comes to just being careful about application. Plus, those mascaras are like $10 to $15 depending on where you buy them. And this is $5. So I still think it lives up to its name, and I still think it holds up in 2024, especially for the price. Just gonna add some contour with my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer Contour Palette. Butter Bronzer is definitely another product that has held its own throughout the years, although they have released so many different versions. Yeah, Butter Bronzer's not going anywhere. Oh, cheekbones, nice of you to join us. Okay, this blush brings me back. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Blush in Mellow Wine. Does this look familiar? Because you probably wore it in high school. This is like one of their original blush shades, although I do think that it used to be packaged differently. I believe it used to be in like a square or rectangle packaging, but all of their powder blushes now, the Color Icon ones, are in this circular compact, but Mellow Wine is still one of those shades that has stuck around for over a decade. I will say for something that has wine in the name, I expected it to be a little bit cooler of a shade, but it's almost giving muted peach. Ooh, that is very powdery. A lot of kick up in the compact right there. Let's try it out. Ooh, that is a very pretty pink. Matches our eye look really well. It's obviously a very soft formula, which is why it's so messy in the compact and easy to be kicked up, but that also makes it look very soft and smooth and blended on the skin. Now, I can't speak to how similar the formula is to the original Color Icon blush because it's been a hot minute, but I do really like how this looks on the skin. I mean, it is beautiful and so smooth. Now, I do think there are a lot of other powder blushes at the drugstore that do not give you this messiness. However, I think that on the face, this performs just as well, and it's less than $4. So I would say that it's still worth checking out if there's a shade that you like, and just, you know, be careful. Now, I'll admit that I have definitely been a cream highlight girly for the past year and a half, 2 years. I feel like they just kind of melt into my skin better. They give you more of that glow versus shimmer that a lot of powder highlighters give you. But I wanted to revisit one highlight that I do remember being less shimmery and more just radiant. This is the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter in Be My Highlight. Sort of a champagne-y pearl, a little bit of a warm undertone underneath. Really pretty. I do remember this being a little bit less of a dramatic highlight versus what I enjoyed at the time that this came out. But since clean girl aesthetic took over, and I think in general, a lot of us strive for our face makeup to look more natural than when this was first kind of in the mix, I'm curious to see if I'm gonna prefer this look versus when I first used it. Ooh. Okay, that's still pretty noticeable. I think at the time when I first had this like in my rotation, during that era, it was really all about like the metallics. Like I was using Maybelline Master Chrome as my everyday highlight. So you can see how this like wasn't necessarily the vibe back then, but now that I have kind of a different perspective on one, what I think looks good on me, and two, what's more like I think this is quite enough highlight to make a statement without being metallic or in your face. It is not picking up the texture and dryness that I have in this area. This is $5, and I think it goes beyond holding up. I actually feel like this is more of the it look than it was when this product was released. Last but not least, we have lipstick, and not just any lipstick. I have a ton of these Revlon Super Lustrous lipsticks that we can pick from. Now, this is like one of the OG drugstore lipsticks ever, and there are shades that have been around since the line's conception, but they do keep adding to this line as well, which I really appreciate from Revlon because you'll get a little bit more of the, you know, trendy shades. Now, these are very traditional lipsticks, and they don't necessarily claim to be, oh, that's really satisfying. They don't claim to be super long lasting. The biggest thing with the super lustrous lipsticks is that they're conditioning. They look very smooth on the lips. I believe, let me see what it says. Formulated with 80% conditioning ingredients. This is Whiskey Business. It's like a mauvish brown. It is so creamy. A lot of color in just one swipe. I do feel like this makes my lips look smoother than they are. So it's not gonna be completely transfer proof. You will probably need to touch up after eating. For me, it's a way bigger deal that this formula makes my lips look like they are in such better shape than they really are. That's just me, but these have been around for so long for a reason. I feel like they launched in like the 40s, maybe earlier. I think Audrey Hepburn used to wear a super lustrous lipstick. So I do believe that these are definitely still worth wearing and buying and checking out in 2024. I was just about to take my hair down and style my bangs, but I wanted to finish off with the Makeup Fixing Mist again, despite hating the smell. I feel like I have to hold my breath. Here's the thing, aside from the smell, I also don't feel like this is giving my face that much of a moisture boost. The feeling is temporary, and then I feel like it dries down and I don't necessarily have a longer lasting effect. So Yeah, this is gonna be a no from me, dog. I think spraying that on my face again was just a little bit sadistic of me. So I wanna know, do you have any drugstore makeup favorites that have been out for like at least 5 years that you still feel not only hold up, but maybe even perform better than newer releases? Tell me what they are in the comments below. And if you do want the scoop on newer makeup releases, join me over in this video next where I try new drugstore makeup that's launched within the last year that I actually forgot to try when they first came out. I'll see you over there. Bye.